Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius, the official energy drink of PewterReport.com. It is a Tuesday edition of the show. Want to say hi to all the Pewter people that are just filing in for this afternoon, as we got a fun one on deck, a nice little summer hypothetical as we get closer to training camp. We are going to be building an NFC South super team. If you're wondering what that means, we're taking all the current players on the rosters of the Bucs, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. We're going every single offensive and defensive position. Who's the best of the best? If the NFC South was playing against the rest of the divisions, how would you build the best team? We're going to break it down by every single position. So a fun hypothetical to get to. Definitely would appreciate any input and feedback and suggestions as well from the people in the comments as we get this going. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR Scott Reynolds. Scott, welcome back to the show. How we doing?
Yeah, doing good. I missed yesterday. I love roll call, but I'm glad that Sly and you got to handle it.
Yeah.
And I'll have to wait till next Monday to participate in roll call. But appreciate all the Pewter Report viewers, readers, and listeners, as Matt and Nathan also say to the show here on Tuesday. And it's fun. Again, mad props to Matty Matera for coming up with some great summer topics, because this is a little bit of a dead time to kill, right? But we want to make it entertaining, thought-provoking, maybe a little controversial. There might be some controversy today, Matt, with the selection here, because this is not going to all be Buccaneer players, of course. And are we biased? I don't know. I mean, if we happen to pick more Buccaneer players than players from other teams to assemble this all NFC South team, are we biased, Matt, or are we just looking at the fact that Tampa Bay has been the NFC South champion the last 3 years in a row?
Right. That's kind of the argument. You know, the Bucs have continuously gone to the playoffs. They've won the division, and even though it's been a bad division, if you're the best team, you're probably going to have the best players. So whether the Bucs advance going 8-9 or 9-8, like they've done the last two seasons, or they have a monster year like they did with Tom Brady in 2021, breaking a franchise record with 13 wins in the season, odds are if you win the division, you probably have the most players. So is there a bias? It's tough to say when, again, they have been the winning team. And also, let's face it, we're going to know the ins and outs of a lot of the Bucs players more than, you know, the Saints right guard.
That's right.
Or whatever the case may be. And that's just kind of the reality of it. I'm sure a Falcons podcast out there might have more Falcons players than Bucs players. And same goes with the Saints. I think a Panthers podcast would be realistic of like, hey, we're lucky to get one or two guys in there. And that's just the nature of these hypotheticals.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, let's dive into today's show with with the offense. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. And, Matt, before we put the graphic up, right, there are 4 quarterbacks to choose from in the NFC South, right? Let's just go from top to bottom in terms of the finish last year. Baker Mayfield from your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Pewter people. And then the New Orleans Saints with Derek Carr. They finished second, also at 9-8, but they were, on the outside looking in when it came to making the playoffs last year, winning the division. Then the Atlanta Falcons, 3 straight years of 7-10. Boy, that's almost Jeff Fisher-like. But I got Arthur Smith fired from his head coaching job, now replaced by Raheem Morris. And they've imported, Matt Ryan's not there anymore. Desmond Ritter's not there. I think they've got Tyler Heineke, right? He's still there, but he's a backup, or is he gone?
I don't even think he's with.
Yeah, they might have
think he's
there.
with. Falcons anymore. Let me see.
Yeah, but it's Kirk Cousins, right? They imported him. They spent a first-round pick on Michael Penix Jr. And then bringing up the rear, Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick from the Panthers last season. And boy, that was a costly pick, Matt, because not only did they pick wrong, because they could have had and should have had C.J. Stroud with that number 1 overall pick. He's been the better quarterback. Only 1 year, small sample size, but certainly a fantastic rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons for any quarterback.
Yeah.
And then you got Bryce Young, who just, not very good last year.
And you lost the first-round pick. Like, you could have Caleb Williams this year, too, if you wanted to.
Yes, exactly. So just terrible trade. Not a good pick. We'll see if Dave Canales can resuscitate Bryce Young and turn him into of a player that is maybe worthy of that first round pick. And we'll see. But let's get to it. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. And who do you think we're going to pick, Pewter people? Do you think it's not going to be Bryce Young, right? And we're not going to
be Bryce Young.
We're not going to pick Derek Carr, right? So Cameron Page wants us to get this right. Well, I tell you, Matt, we're not biased. We're going with Kirk Cousins because he is the more accomplished quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're building this team, it's not an exact science, right? Because you're going with the standpoint of like, what is the best team if you're playing against another division? Who's the best quarterback to have?
Yeah.
So you can't just base it off of last season because that wouldn't even be fair because Kirk Cousins only played in 8 games, and then obviously, sorry, Bat W, because Kirk Cousins only played in 8 games before he had a season-ending injury where, Baker obviously balled out, had the 28 touchdowns and 4,000. But if you're comparing the body of work, even of the past, 5 seasons, and Kirk Cousins has been in the NFL this will be his 13th season.
Yeah.
If you're comparing body of work of even the last 5 years, it's Kirk Cousins all day over Baker Mayfield.
He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, right? And you look at the wins that he's stacked up. He's got he had a 13-4 season in 2022.
Yeah,
he had
50 and 37 overall in Minnesota.
Yeah,
with the Vikings. Before he got injured this season, remember where he only played 8 games.
Yeah.
He threw for 4,000 yards, at least 4,000 yards from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah.
Even last year, again, 8 games. That's the last time I'll say it.
Yeah,
he threw 18 touchdowns. So he played in way less games than Baker Mayfield and was only 10 touchdowns behind what Baker did. If this was last year, Baker Mayfield would easily be the pick. There's no question about it based on Derek Carr and Ritter. But we have to look at everything with every single team and who they added. And Baker certainly didn't make it easy. It was not a no-brainer that Kirk Cousins is the answer. But I think Kirk Cousins is the right call.
Yeah, this is a tight pick. This is kind of a 1A, 1B thing. And listen, maybe our motivation is to piss Baker off too. Have you thought about that, Pewter people?
Yeah.
Have you thought about the fact that we want to get that chip on his shoulder a little bit bigger with another slight? Listen, no slight to Baker Mayfield. He's a very fine quarterback, and I'm of the opinion Tampa Bay still wins the NFC South this year, and I'll reevaluate that at the end of the preseason, given injuries and how the teams perform in the preseason. But as it stands right now, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs repeat as NFC South champions. I'm not buying the Falcons hype. And Baker has a lot to do with the Bucs winning the NFC South. So again, not sliding Baker, but Kirk Cousins comes to the NFC South with a little bit more gravitas, the 4 Pro Bowls, as Matt mentioned, the 4,000-yard seasons, etc. And we'll see. We'll see at age 36 if he can be a little bit of an ageless wonder like Tom Brady was going to another team later in his career and still having the proficiency to throw the ball the way that Brady did. And we'll see how that Achilles holds up on the Atlanta turf as well. And then we're going on to the running back position, Bijan Robinson from the Atlanta Falcons. Top 10 pick last year for a reason, Matt.
No question about it. And the cool thing about running back is that I think there are a lot better candidates for the running back position than necessarily quarterback, because if this is 3 years ago, I mean, Bijan Robinson's not even in the league, and Rachaad White would be a rookie. But say Bijan was available and Rachaad White, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, Alvin Kamara might be the answer.
Right.
But we have to take into consideration that Kamara is much older now, and he's much more of a receiving running back than he is kind of an all-around running back. And let's face it, Bijan Robinson is an absolute electric factory as a running back. He was in school when he played at Texas, and did a fine job in his rookie year with the Falcons. And Falcons have a very deep running back room too with Tyler Algier. So
love Tyler Algier.
Yeah, a lot of good options for running back in this one. It's tough to take Rachaad White, of course, when he didn't crack 1,000 yards last year. And it's okay if you're taking Bijan Robinson versus Rachaad White just as a receiving running back. I think the nod still goes to Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
And he's just so fast. The way he's able to make people miss, and he hits the hole so quickly, which again has been a knock on Rachaad White. I feel pretty good about this pick. There's an argument to be made that Bijan Robinson is the best weapon on this NFC South offense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And Matt and I were just about kind of in lockstep with all of these things here. We didn't have to do too much arm twisting when it came to this. Again, Matt and I seeing the Buccaneers and the NFC South pretty much the same way too. So you're getting a lot of consistency here. Let's go to the wide receiver position. It starts off with a 1-2 punch. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the most accomplished receivers in the NFC South. And also too, as was recently pointed out, the only receiving pair in the entire NFL that have had 1,000-yard seasons each over the last 3 seasons. So this is a group that, with these two, I shouldn't say group, this duo is dynamic. 1,000 yards, penciling in every year. Evans is going to give you the touchdowns. Matt, Godwin's going to give you the first downs, the clutch catches. And then, too, when you look at the third wide receiver, because this is more of a passing league.
Yeah.
Chris Olave is he's the number one weapon in New Orleans and a very fine player in his own right. And he got the nod slightly over Drake London, I think, in Atlanta.
Yeah, London would be that honorable mention. The only other receiver that I really gave much consideration to, there was no doubt about it that Mike Evans and really Chris Godwin too were going to be the first 2 wide receivers for me. I mean, we can go on and on and on all day about how important Mike Evans has been to the Buccaneers, how great of a player as he's been consistently in his career with the consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. And he's not really showing any signs of slowing down. I mean, he had his best receiving season in a couple of years, led the Buccaneers and the whole league in touchdowns. Well, he tied with Tyreek Hill with 13 touchdowns on the season. So Mike Evans, there was no question about it, was going to be the number 1 wide receiver taken in this NFC South super team. And Chris Godwin, this isn't even speaking to the lack of maybe talent or up and coming wide receivers in the NFC South, but Chris Godwin can do about anything in an offense. You want to line him up in the slot, he'll play in the slot. That's where he's going back to this year, and hopefully will thrive. You want to put him outside? All right, he's found success there. Maybe not as much success as he was in the slot, but he's just a guy that you can count on, rely on. Is going to put in the work. And then for Chris Olave, in 2 seasons, he's been pretty impressive. And granted, the Saints offense has been so fluky, so up and down. He has gotten 1,000 yards in both of his seasons in the league, 1,042 as a rookie in 2022. Which got him a couple votes for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah. And 1,123 receiving yards last year with Derek Carr and 5 touchdowns to go with it. So, maybe he'll find the Bucs don't hope so, but if he finds the end zone a little bit more, I think that'll kind of move him into a higher tier. There's a lot of great wide receivers around the league, but Olave, I think quietly has really put up some good production 2 years into the NFL.
Yeah, and then the tight end position, little bit of an interesting selection here. Kyle Pitts, you look at Juwan Johnson in New Orleans, and he's a player that I really like in terms of his ability to find the end zone and put points on the board. He's a good red zone threat as well. 4 touchdowns last year. 368 yards receiving and 37 catches. 27 years old, still has a lot of mileage left on the tire. So I think that Juwan Johnson, and he had 7 touchdowns in 2022, and he was a buck killer last year. Remember that game?
Yeah.
When they came in and just took the Bucs to task in the first half. Juwan Johnson was a bit unstoppable. But the thing is, Matt, Kyle Pitts, I think he's been a little bit underused outside of that rookie season by Arthur Smith. And now what's interesting, and I don't think this has been talked about or written about enough, and maybe we should do some more reporting on it. When you've got the NFC South and you've got 2 teams that have imported LA Rams, Sean McVay disciples in Liam Cohen in Tampa Bay and Zach Robinson with the Atlanta Falcons, they're both going to be running very similar offenses.
Yeah.
And what that means a lot is 3-by-1s, which is 3 receivers and the 1 tight end kind of flexed out. There'll be times where you'll see Kyle Pitts and you'll see Kate Otten in line, but they're also going to be flexed out there a little bit. And guess what? That's what Florida used to do with Kyle Pitts. He's a massive guy, 6'6", 245 pounds. And you're going to have him isolated against who, Matt? A linebacker, a safety, a cornerback? Who are you going to match up Kyle Pitts when he's away from the formation, isolated? And I think maybe this is the year where he really lives up to that first-round draft billing and has a little bit more of a breakout year for the Falcons.
Right. I mean, one of the biggest complaints about Arthur Smith and his time with the Falcons was that you never got Kyle Pitts involved. There was jokes made that Kyle Pitts was the best decoy in the league. So Kyle Pitts on this all NFC South team, you're kind of looking at more of a track meet type of offense then, because Kyle Pitts, I wouldn't say is like your traditional tight end. He's a little bit more of like a Jimmy Graham type of tight end back in the day, compared to the Kelseys and Kittles that you see today, or even, Gronk in his prime would still block as much as he was a great wide receiver, or tight end, I should say. So it doesn't really surprise me at all that his best season was a rookie where he had over 1,000 receiving yards and only 1 touchdown on the year. But Matt Ryan, granted a much older Matt Ryan at the end of his career, Matt Ryan, who had a great rapport with Tony Gonzalez when Gonzalez was in Atlanta, was able to find Kyle Pitts. And then the next 2 years where he had Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder, and then Desmond Ridder pretty much as the full-time starter last year, his numbers dropped considerably. Now, granted, he only played in 10 games in 2022, but he had 356 yards and then 667 yards last year. So, that's something for this current day Buccaneers. They got to really take that into account. Obviously, Kirk Cousins coming to the Falcons. This could be a resurgence of Kyle Pitts that the Bucs and their fans won't want to see. But a guy that's kind of fallen short, kind of slipped through the cracks with, like, even tight end I didn't hear one thing about Kyle Pitts where you feel like Kyle Pitts was like, a top 10 draft pick? Like, there's a lot of stock and investment in Kyle Pitts, and it's just really been mum is the word when it comes to him. There he is getting a stiff arm on former Buccaneer Devin White. But I don't know. If we did this next season, it might be Juwan Johnson that kind of makes this list, depending on what Pitts does this year. Because I think a lot of people, myself included, are still fixated on Kyle Pitts as, well, if he reaches his potential, if he reaches his ceiling of what he can do, he has all the athletics, he can be great. But, I mean, really outside of his rookie year, it just hasn't been seen yet.
Yeah. And if you look back, it's not like the Rams have had these dynamic tight ends. They have not had a Pro Bowler, but Tyler Higbee's, when healthy, a really good tight end. And that's and I think Pitts is a more athletic version, a bigger, more athletic version of Tyler Higbee. So there you go. Pewter people, we're approaching 15,000 YouTube subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is Pewter Report TV. Here's what you can do to help us, and this would be awesome and amazing. We have thousands of people that watch our podcasts, and we end up with hundreds of people giving us the thumbs up or the like. The more likes we get, the more the YouTube algorithm will pick up our Pewter Report podcasts and other things like the Pewter Pulse videos or any of the Pewter Report content on Pewter Report TV, and they'll put it out there in front of more awesome Buccaneer fans like yourself. So do 2 things, please. Every single video we have, if you give us a like, that helps out tremendously. And if you leave a comment, it can be algorithm help, it can be go Bucs, it can be go PR, it can be a question, it can be a comment, it could be a suggestion for maybe a topic for another Pewter Report show or a Pewter Pulse video that I do. So that type of interaction with you guys really helps our channel. We appreciate it because you've done a great job so far. We're over 14,300. We want to get to 15,000 by the start of the season. That's 700 more to go. And we have all the training camp to really pile up some numbers. But that's a big way you can help us get in front of more Buccaneer fans. So just hit the like button, the thumbs up, and also leave a comment. I go back and I read the comments, and I like to interact and answer questions. And we appreciate all the kind words. And even if you didn't like the show, tell us why. We'll try to fix it.
And I think today's episode is a great example as well. If you want to come up with your own NFC super team roster, feel free to do that. If you don't want to write out 22 people, I understand that. Feel free to go in and say, oh, instead of, Chris Olave, a wide receiver, I would have put in Drake London or whatever the player position may be. Feel free to give your opinion on that as well.
Matt, it might be a thing too, where like if you want to say, I'm not going to go with Kirk Cousins, I'm going to go with Astro Vibe, and I'm not going to go with Bijan Robinson. I'm going to go with Arctic Vibe, right? And I'm not going to go, with Chris Olave. I'm going to go with Kiwi Guava, right? Yeah. If you want to do that, if you're a Celsius enthusiast, by all means do that, because Celsius is the official energy drink of Pewter Report, man.
Yes, it is. And the beauty of Celsius is there's so many awesome flavors. You just mentioned a few. You could probably field your whole offense and defense because there's tons and tons of flavor of Celsius. That the Arctic Vibe is my personal favorite. I'm a big fan of that. So if you need to know where to find a Celsius energy drink, go to the Celsius store locator on their website. And remember, Celsius, there's no sugar. It's gluten-free. It's a great substitution for coffee if you want to get a kickstart to your morning. So head to the Celsius store locator on their website, punch in your address, and it'll tell you the closest location where you can pick one up. You might not even be home. Maybe you're on vacation somewhere else. It's 4th of July weekend. So punch in that address and it'll tell you where you can pick one up. Could be your local Walmart or health and fitness store, or it could be your bodega.
Bodega.
And once you keep going to your bodega, and you love Celsius and you want to get more, you want to buy it in bulk, you can buy it in bulk. Head on over to Amazon, click on that subscribe and save. I recommend purchasing the variety pack because there's so many awesome flavors, and variety is the spice of life. Why limit yourself to one flavor of Celsius when you can get a ton of flavors of Celsius? So to recap, Amazon, the subscribe and save, you can have it sent to your place of residence whenever you want. You're in charge. You're the captain. Just make sure you're drinking Celsius energy drinks, the official energy drink of pewterreport.com.
Yeah. No super chats, but we do have a couple of interesting questions we're going to get to. So I know y'all are being shy today. Not as much comments and feedback. Maybe you're just waiting with bated breath to see who we're going to pick for the defensive players. We'll finish out with the offense in a second here. But this is a good question here from Jay Anitra. Scott, what was the worst year ever for you covering the Bucs for whatever reason? Well, that's easy. The worst year was 2014 for several reasons. Number one, Lovie Smith, because he was an absolutely awful coach and a train wreck of a head coach here in Tampa. The Buccaneers went 2-14. Remember, he replaced Greg Schiano. And usually when you replace a coach, the reason is because you sucked the year before and you want to get better, right? That's the thinking. Well, they went from 4-12 with Greg Schiano to 2-14 with Lovie Smith. So they actually regressed with a guy that came with Super Bowl credentials. He lost famously to Tony Dungy, but led the Bears to Super Bowl, and the Colts beat him down in Miami. It was a bit of a rainy night. Prince played the halftime show, one of the greatest halftime shows of all time.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the other thing, man, and this really irks me more than anything. If you are a diehard Bucs fan and you were a season ticket holder in 2014, you did not witness a single victory all year. That's right. The Bucs won 2 games, and those 2 games were out of town.
Yeah, one of them was against the Steelers. I vividly remember that one. I think I forgot which receiver, but I remember they scored a touchdown with like 10 seconds left. Vincent Jackson scored. Okay, because I remember I had a buddy of mine that went to Duquesne, which is a school in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So like I was kind of rooting for the Bucs. He was kind of rooting for the Steelers. And I remember that game being crazy. I don't recall the other game they won that year.
Well, the other interesting thing about the Pittsburgh game that you mentioned, because that was earlier in the year, I want to say that was maybe the 3rd game of the season in 2014. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, that was actually, it was 20. Oh, I'm looking at 2012, 2014. Here we go. So, yeah, the Pittsburgh game was the 4th game of the year. So they start off 0-3. And they won in Pittsburgh 27-24.
And that was a good Steelers team, too.
That was a good Steelers team.
Like, it was Ben Roethlisberger and, all those guys. So.
Yeah. And that was Mike Evans' first touchdown as a Buccaneer. Happened in that game as well. So the other win was against the Washington Redskins at Washington, 27-7. So that those were the two wins right there. And so, yeah, it was awful. They only won 2 games, and none of them were at home. So that was terrible if you were a season ticket holder. What a waste of money. So I feel bad for you. At least you got to see some better football as the years went on. And, of course, culminating the 2020s have been much better than the 2010s, Matt.
Yes. And also a little butterfly effect moment. Bucs fans, even though it was terrible with Lovie Smith, they also kind of have to thank Lovie Smith because if you remember, he was the head coach of the Texans where it was the last game of the season. He was like, screw it, we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
And that forced the Texans, when they won, it gave them the second overall pick. So the
Yeah.
Panthers had the first pick.
That's true.
And, who knows? If the Texans had the first pick, maybe they still would have went with C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young. But since the Panthers got the first pick, they had their first choice, and they went with Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud went to the Texans, where if it was the other way around, maybe the Bucs would have had to deal with C.J. Stroud in the division for the next 10 years, and that would not be as much fun for Bucs fans. So, a little butterfly effect moment.
Yeah, we just talked about Kyle Pitts being the tight end on our NFC South team, our super team. Tyler Lavelle says, wish Baker had a Gronk level tight end. Yeah, I mean, Cade Otton has Pro Bowl aspirations. Not sure that he's necessarily going to meet that threshold. We'll see. Might be a breakout year. Cade had a good end to the 2023 season. 8 catches, 89 yards against the Philadelphia Eagles. Was leading receiver that day, and then had a touchdown. His 5th of the year, including the 4 in the regular season, but had a touchdown the next week against the Detroit Lions. So let's go back to our list here and finish up on the offensive side, shall we? The offensive line. Let's start with the left tackle, Tristan Wirfs. That's easy. That's hands down.
Took me maybe half a second to come up with.
Exactly. Yep. And then let's stick with the other offensive tackle. Then we'll work our way inward. Luke Goedeke, really, right tackle. I think Luke Goedeke is somewhere between DeMar Dotson and a Pro Bowler. I think if he gets the penalties reduced and continues to ascend as a run blocker and pass protector, I could see Luke Goedeke maybe sniffing some Pro Bowls. If not, I think that he's a better version of DeMar Dotson, who, Matt, was a 10-year starter at right tackle and one of the most steady players you're going to find in Bucs history. That's not a bad thing.
Exactly. And that's what you're looking for when you get these offensive tackles. And, we had a discussion about potentially Caleb McGarry from the Falcons or Luke Goedeke. But you look what Luke Goedeke did. He's trending in a great direction, not just the right direction, but a great direction, because I wouldn't necessarily say he was locked down. You bring up a good point about the penalties and stuff like that, but he was as consistent as you could really ask for going up against some great pass rushers in the NFL. And obviously with Tristan Wirfs on the left side, teams are going to put their edge rushers that feel comfortable rushing off of either side. They're obviously going to take what is looked at or viewed at as the weaker matchup or the weaker opponent just because of how great Tristan Wirfs is. And what a great motivating factor for Luke Goedeke, not just like playing on the field, but working out and training with, seeing Tristan Wirfs, a guy who's been an All-Pro, a guy that is in every conversation as the best offensive tackle in the league. I mean, that's a great, little dangling of the carrot in front of him literally every single day. So Goedeke, with what he did last season, where it was not a sure thing by any means when we were at this time last year, fast forward 1 year, I mean, if he can build upon what he did, I don't think he's going to be in the conversation just yet as like best tackles in the league, but he's slowly but surely getting into, a new bracket of reliable offensive tackles, which is a really good bracket to be in, that not many teams can say that they trust both of their tackles. And the Bucs are obviously have it with Wirfs and are close to getting it with Luke Goedeke.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Matt. And I'm not trying to devalue Luke Goedeke, and I don't want to hold him back from getting any money or accolades or advancing in his career. But if he is a DeMar Dotson caliber right tackle, where he's good enough to where you don't necessarily want to or have to replace him, right? But he's just not at that upper crust, that Pro Bowl tier. Well, it helps your salary cap, right? Because if you've got 2 Pro Bowl tackles, he's not going to make as much as Wirfs, because Wirfs is an all-pro level guy. But he is going to make more money as a Pro Bowler, and that's going to reduce your spend elsewhere. So, if he ends up being that guy that's maybe just a hair better than DeMar Dotson, that's not a bad thing at all.
Right.
We'll see how the interior works out. And, we don't have any rookies on this list for a reason because, they haven't proven anything yet. I like Graham Barton. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler. I think it's going to be he and Frank Ragnow from the Lions as the Pro Bowlers now that Jason Kelsey's retired at the center position. But, again, hasn't played it down yet. So the center we have is Drew Dahlman from Atlanta, along with probably the second best overall offensive lineman in the NFC South, Matt, Chris Lindstrom, the right guard. He's kind of on a Wirfs level in terms of really truly being one of the top 2 or 3 guards in the league.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, I remember looking at Chris Lindstrom in the draft. I remember pretty sure he was at the Senior Bowl.
He was from
and
Boston
a lot
College,
of us, from Boston, from BC, like you said. And I'm pretty sure I either mocked him in a mock draft or he ended up on a Pewter Report mock draft or something like that. But I know I really wanted him to go to the Buccaneers. And really with any offensive lineman, whether it's Tristan Wirfs or Chris Lindstrom, you just want your guy to be consistent first and then to win as many matchups and battles as he can against the guy in front of him. And Chris Lindstrom has done that year in and year out. There's been a lot of issues on the Falcons offensive line over the past couple of years. Obviously, they're better now, but Chris Lindstrom was never really that problem. So he really solidifies their offensive line, at least on the interior side. Yeah. And the Bucs hope that they can get a Chris Lindstrom. Hopefully, Cody Mauch turns into that guy. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the best interior offensive linemen in the league. So that was another one that didn't really have to take too much consideration.
Yeah. And in my hope, and of course, Jason Light and Todd Bowles, their hope is that if we do this exercise next year, that the center is not Drew Dahlman, that it's Graham Barton. And I would not be surprised if this guy takes some lumps early and then just starts playing at a Pro Bowl caliber level by the end of the year. I think that's the expectation for him. And I wrote in my SR's Fab 5 that the team will just go ahead and kind of end the charade of the competition between he and Robert Hainsey, and just go ahead and name him the starter. And the funny thing is, I got some feedback. I know most of the team is on vacation right now, but it doesn't mean they don't have phones. Doesn't mean that they're not going to check out pewterreport.com and read it. And I did get some feedback about my SR Spat 5. I'll drop that in the chat right now, along with my new Pewter Pulse video, which just debuted about an hour or two ago. So the premise of my SR Spat 5 is the Bucs must start Graham Barton at center right now. And don't give any reps to Robert Hainsey with Baker Mayfield. You need to get Baker Mayfield and Graham Barton in sync right now and get that chemistry going next to Cody Mauch and whoever the left guard is going to be. And the feedback I got was that's exactly what's going to happen. So I think that we're going to see starting a training camp. It's not going to be a competition. It's Graham Barton's job. Not to lose. It's just going to be Graham Barton's job, period. And I like that, Matt.
I'm a huge fan of that. So a little bit of somewhat kind of breaking news on the Pewter Report podcast. And that's why you listen to the show 4 times a week or 3 times this week with 4th of July on Thursday. But yeah, I mean, you can't put a rookie on this list unless it's, I don't even know. But Graham Barton, there's a lot of promise. There's a ton of potential. There's a reason why he was the first center taken off of the board. And really, there was another center that went in the 2nd round. And the 3rd center drafted in this year's draft wasn't until the 4th round. So, people weren't in love with their centers. And that's why Graham Barton probably has a pretty good shot to make the all-rookie team. Because I think part of making the all-rookie team in the NFL is really just, are you starting and are you doing okay at your position? Right. And for starting center, it's probably going to be a lot easier than, the 5 wide receivers that were drafted in the 1st round. There's only so much room for those guys. So Graham Barton, I love his self-awareness of, hey, listen, I'm not perfect yet. I'm just trying to learn the offense. I want to be vocal, but also understand I'm not the number 1 leader in the room. I just really like where his headspace is at right now. And hopefully he makes this list next year. Yeah.
Holy smokes, Matt. There's a Carolina Panther.
Are you kidding me? Well, it's fitting that this Carolina Panther really hasn't even been the Carolina Panther for long. Because Robert Hunt is coming over from the Miami Dolphins. Yeah. Highly rated. offensive guard. He's technically a right guard, but we're taking a little liberties with
Yeah.
this, just trying to field the best team as possible. If Tristan Wirfs can go from right tackle to left tackle, then Robert Hunt can hypothetically go to the right
Yeah.
side to the left side in this made up super team. So, Carolina, they're not going to have, like we said in the beginning, they're not going to have a lot of players on this list. That's
Right.
why they had the number. Well, they would have had the number 1 pick this year if they didn't make the trade for Bryce Young. But yeah, I mean, it was a good free agent pickup by the Panthers. They made 2 free agent signings this year on the interior offensive line as they look to protect their quarterback, their investment, Bryce Young, this year. And with a overall weak offensive line in the NFC South, I mean, we've talked for days about the issues that the Bucs have on the interior offensive line. The Saints, it's not that much better, and the Falcons, they have it down with Lindstrom, but it really just kind of a process of elimination of, it's Robert Hunt or who else? So Robert Hunt became the guy.
Exactly. So one position we don't have is team doctor. Okay, because we don't have all of the information on the team doctors in the NFC South. But I do know my personal doctor, and it's Christopher Lugo. So if you want to get the best personalized medical care that you deserve, well, Chris Lugo is the one to see. If you're tired of feeling like just another number in the waiting room at Bay Area Modern Medical Center in Tampa, we believe you deserve personalized care that puts your health and well-being first. Christopher Lugo has 24 years of medical expertise as a primary care provider. He's dedicated to your overall health, but that's not all. Christopher also specializes in weight loss, anti-aging, and hormone replacement therapy, including testosterone treatments. So men, listen up. Testosterone treatments, they can be affordable. I know because I am under the care of Christopher Lugo for testosterone treatments, and it works wonders. I don't feel like I'm 52. I probably feel like I'm about 40. So don't let age slow you down. Reclaim your vitality. Get back to feeling great. Get rid of the mental fog. Get some more energy. Turn back the clock with a consultation at Bay Area Modern Medical Center today. I've already heard from Christopher Lugo. We have sent some referrals his way, and the people that I've talked to that follow Pewter Report, they're thrilled with their initial consultation, and they're like, wow, I can't believe it took me this long to go see Christopher Lugo. But all you have to do is go to the website, BAMMC.com, to explore the range of testosterone and weight loss treatments. Or if you just want to schedule a primary care visit with Christopher Lugo, you can do that because he also practices concierge medicine. That means no more waiting rooms, no more rushing through appointments. Imagine a doctor who takes the time to go over your extensive lab results, discuss your diet and exercise plans, and then provides personalized vitamin and supplement recommendations to optimize your health. Same-day appointments are also available. So again, I am a satisfied patient, and I want you to join the ranks of Christopher Lugo's satisfied patients as well. Get ready to experience healthcare that revolves around you. Book your appointment today at BAMMC.com or give them a call at 844-789-2266. That's Bay Area Modern Medical Center, where your health is the top priority.
Before we get to the defense, Scott, we got a couple of super chats to get to. So thank you very much to these next 2 people. Starting off with Matt Doria. Thank you so much, Matt, for this $5 super chat, who says, just bought my tickets for the Bucs cruise. Would love to meet you guys and maybe grab a beer together.
Hey, you can take the word maybe out of it. It's going to happen.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yep.
There's no maybe. It's happening. Definitely having a beer together. Great name as well, Matt. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Very much looking forward to talking some Bucs with you on the cruise. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you for joining the cruise. We always love when our fans help out our advertisers. So
it's going to be a blast. And listen, it's a 3-day cruise. We're going to have a couple of we'll call them tweet ups and meetups, right? We're going to tweet. It's really X, but we'll still call it tweets.
Yeah,
we're going to tweet out where we're going to be on the ship and when we're going to be. And it will not interfere with Buccaneer opportunities, so we don't want to rob.
Right, like if there's a Bucs game show going on, we're not going to be like, hey, meet us on the other side of the ship.
Exactly. It's going to be kind of during some of the more dead times, and we'll grab some beers, we'll talk, we'll give you guys some inside scoop that you're not going to find anywhere else.
Yep.
So
things
it'll
we
be
can't
fun.
say on the podcast.
Exactly. Yep.
And then this next super chat, thanks again, Matt. And thank you to Meets McGee, always a consistent super chatter. Thanks for the $5 super chat. as they say. I met Calais Campbell at a bar in Atlanta the night after the game. Just say he did not have any nice words to say about Luke Gedeke.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that was kind of an even matchup because I think Calais really took it to Luke, and I think Luke also took it to Calais as well. If you remember at the start of the season, Luke went up against guys like Cameron Jordan, handled him pretty easily. Daniil Hunter, I think he handled him pretty easily in week 1.
Yes.
Hassan Reddick in week 3 erased him. He was invisible when the Eagles beat the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. But then Calais Campbell came to town, and I think up to that point, Matt, that was probably the most difficult challenge at that time for Gedeke. And it wasn't like Calais, won outright. I think they both kind of split some reps there. But that's interesting that Meats McGee had that to say.
Yeah, because the Neil Hunter was the first one that I think all right, well, he passed that test.
Right.
Then he's good to go. And Calais Campbell, obviously, he's a veteran who's been doing it for a very long time. And remember, Luke Gedeke, and I think we forgot about it because he did struggle his rookie year.
Yeah.
But his nickname in college was the Glass Eater. Like, he's a guy that's going to get in your face and kind of cause ruckus. So Calais Campbell not being complimentary of Luke Gedeke, I can maybe see why, because Luke Gedeke probably annoyed him. Like we saw the mic'd up stuff when he'll get in someone's face and
the Jaguars game,
the Jaguars game on Christmas Eve, and I think that just goes into Luke Gedeke being more comfortable with his surroundings and more confident in himself as a player.
Yeah.
And now he'll stand up to anyone. So thanks for that super chat. It's cool to see.
Totally agree. Nathan Elliott says, this is to Matt, you need to get the upgraded drink package. Yeah, I heard that's the way to go. And yes, I will want an old fashioned. I heard there's an old fashioned bar
cool.
on the ship too. So it's not just a place where you can get beer and all the different cocktails and all that. They have a dedicated old fashioned bar. JC Allen told me that. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I am a bourbon drinker. I'm an old fashioned guy, but happy to throw back some beers as well.
All right, let's get to the defensive side of things. And Scott, I will say, there are certainly some no-brainers like Antoine Winfield Jr. That didn't take too much consideration.
Right.
But I don't think there were as many kind of sure things or really standout players, I should say, compared to on offense, like Bijan Robinson, you can kind of pencil in. Same with Mike Evans and Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
On defense, it took a little more of deliberation between you and I to kind of figure out everybody, because there's some talent all across each defense, but not a ton of real studs. I would say where if you're doing an NFC. If you're doing an AFC North team, it's like, okay, well, Myles Garrett and TJ Watt are going to be your edge rushers. Like,
exactly. Guaranteed. Yeah. Double-digit sack guys. Yeah. And the interesting thing is there's no double-digit sack guys on the edge in the NFC South.
Correct.
Jadeveon Clowney, I think, may have had one. He's in Carolina now, but he's not the same guy. He's not the same player that he was. Chase Young, same thing in New Orleans. We'll wait and see. He had off-season shoulder surgery, I believe. I think it was shoulder surgery, but he had surgery he's recovering from. But Carl Granderson, really, I want to say 8.5 sacks last year. Yep. He was a player I liked coming out of Wyoming back in the day, believe it or not. I've been a big Carl Granderson fan. He had to kind of bide his time and wait behind the Marcus Davenports, the Trey Hendricks, the Hendricksons, those types of players that they've had in front of him. And, of course, Cameron Jordan is the other long-term New Orleans Saint who's anchored down the left end spot. And there's no Cam Jordan on this list because Jordan's not that good of a player anymore. Being honest, he's
not. Like, to go back to Luke Gedeke stoned him.
Yeah.
In every single matchup. So yeah, he did not. He was not a player that I was like, oh, maybe he'll make this spot. If it was prime Cam Jordan, yes, even we would have to admit that Cam Jordan would be on this list.
Right.
But it's not. So, Carl Granderson, like you said, a guy that's kind of been biding his time a little bit. I think 8.5 sacks. Yes, you want a double-digit sacker for your team every single year. Realistically, it's not going to happen all the time. So, but I feel like 8.5 sacks is not anything to, kind of shake your fist at or shake your head at. Like, that's still a solid and productive season. So, again, without any true studs at edge rusher in the whole NFC South, Granderson takes one of the spots.
Yeah. And when you look at Cam Jordan, 3.5 sacks last year. Okay. In New Orleans, Granderson had 8.5. Demario Davis, their starting Pro Bowl inside linebacker, had 6.5. Brian Brees, the first round draft pick, the defensive tackle, 4.5. Nathan Shepard, the other defensive tackle, 3.5. Tano Passanio, another defensive lineman, 3.5 sacks. And then Cam Jordan had, actually, he had 2 sacks, is what it looks like. Yeah. So he did not have a very good year. He's 34. He'll be 35 this season, and he's on the way down. So, sorry. I mean, I think at this stage of the game, Cam Jordan's mouth is probably writing checks that his body can't cash, and that's okay. Great player in his prime. I'm not knocking old Cam Jordan because he was a formidable foe, but he's just not that guy anymore. And Carl Granderson, if you're asking me, if I'm Liam Cohen, Carl Granderson is the guy I have to game plan for more so than Cam Jordan along that defensive line in New Orleans. And then, looking at the other edge player, it's Yaya Diaby, and maybe this is a little bit of a premature selection, but still 7.5 sacks. I know the pass rush win rate is not there, but Matt, you look at the tackles for loss. This is a guy that can play the run, set the edge. He is a 3-down player, not a 3rd-down player, but a player that we've seen here in Tampa. Started off as a very good run stuffer, has a little bit of a nose for the ball, 2 fumble recoveries and a forced fumble last year. I think the arrow's pointing up for Yaya Diaby.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at an edge rusher, naturally, a lot of fans and even analysts, they gravitate towards the sacks first. And I totally understand sacks are, one of the more sexier stats on the defensive side of the football. And he obviously did lead the Bucs in that category and did it without even starting until the month of November. But yeah, Yaya can do a little bit of everything. I mean, he recovered a handful of fumbles last year too. And sometimes that's a little bit of the luck of the draw, but he can defend the run. He can set the edge. And that's kind of what we liked about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, is that he's a good run defender who will make sure he doesn't lose outside contain, but then he also wouldn't get to the quarterback. Well, Yaya Diaby can get to the quarterback. And we've seen Yaya this year. Again, he had the infamous line about, I want to go to the gym on Sunday, but the Bucs locked me out. So, yes, this is a little bit of like what Yaya can be. But again, when there's not many other options to go with, then Yaya steps into the role.
Yeah, and there's no Brian Burns anymore. Carolina,
which would have made it easier because Brian Burns probably would have taken the Yaya spot if we're being realistic. But he's on the Giants now, so not available.
Well, the 2 defensive tackles are pretty easy when you look at how much they make, how big they are, the damage that they do. Vita Vea, Derek Brown, those are clearly the 2 top defensive tackles there. And we'll see. Maybe Kalijah Kancey cracks this list next year. He certainly has the talent to be a double-digit sacker. It'd be interesting to see which player in Tampa Bay along that defensive front gets to double digits first. Is it Kalijah Kancey? Is it Yaya Diaby? But right now, it's Vita Vea. And Derek Brown does not get to the quarterback. He is not a sacker, but man, he takes away the run. He sets up the linebackers to either make plays as blitzers between the tackles or just to fill their holes and stuff the run. But he collapses the pocket. I mean, he's just an absolute beast in the middle.
He's one of those guys where you may look at his box score and be like, what the heck? Like, how's this guy on the list? But he does so much more for the rest of the defense. And a guy that we pinpointed before when the Bucs are playing the Panthers of like, hey, let's just stop this guy and the Bucs will be okay in the game. And you know what? For Vita Vea, to a degree, that was initially his role of just eating double teams, making sure the run has been stopped. And now he's evolved so much as a defensive tackle and even evolved this year with obviously slimming down. I'm very excited for what Vita can bring to the Bucs defensive line this year, especially having Kalijah Kancey for a whole season. And we know what he's done for the Bucs on defense, what he means and what his role has been. So Vita and Derek Brown, I would say those 2 at defensive tackle and the inside linebacker I'm about to talk to. For me, I was ready to write them in right away, especially, I mean, obviously Levante David for all he's done. But Demario Davis, I'm a really big fan of as well.
I am too. I mean, I know he's a New Orleans Saint, not trying to piss off any Buccaneer fans, but man, Demario Davis can play. I am a big fan of his game. He has been a thorn in the side, and he's getting up there, but he's still like Levante playing at a high level. He can blitz, he can cover. He can tackle. I mean, he's a big physical presence. He's a bit of a thumper, but he's athletic enough to make things happen. Those are the two easy gimme inside linebackers. And then we're heading to the secondary here. We have a question, and let's get to it right here. So the question is, because let's look at the cornerbacks here. We have Marshawn Lattimore.
That's going to be team chemistry is going to take a hit here because you got Mike Evans on one side
right.
and you got Marshawn Lattimore on the other. It would make practices awesome.
Spirited practices.
Must watch, but not the best chemistry.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And so you've got J.C. Horn, maybe a little bit of a projection there, but former first-round pick with the Carolina Panthers. Again, we got to put a couple of Panthers on, Yeah. So there's a couple of names there. Marshawn Lattimore with the Saints. He's not the player that he was, but I want to say he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, and we'll see. Maybe this is the year he falls off the cliff, or maybe he rebounds a little bit more. I think the reason, because you're looking for 3 corners, because this is kind of a nickel defense. The reason, and Matt and I kind of debated, right? We debated, Needs McGee says, AJ Terrell over Dean. Dean does have a couple of things going for him. He was on the Super Bowl team. He's paid like a shutdown corner, right? He wasn't the first round pick like Terrell was, but when he's healthy and focused, I think Dean is the better corner, and we're kind of giving him a little bit of the Buccaneer benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Terrell's gotten some big NFL accolades in his career, but last year he didn't have any interceptions, but neither did Jamel Dean. So you're kind of looking at like, all right, well, what else can kind of separate these two? And you kind of just laid it out there. J.C. Horn was a first-round pick. One of the few bright spots on a Panthers roster that just overall isn't good.
Yeah.
So figured we'd give him the nod to that team.
The safeties, surprise, surprise, Antoine Winfield Jr., Jesse Bates, they're the top 2 safeties. Bates more of the free safety exclusive, where Winfield can do it all. He can be the free safety. He's kind of listed as the free safety on the roster and the depth chart. But to get all those sacks, Matt, and he had 6 last year, 6 sacks.
Yeah.
Which is 3 times as many as Cam Jordan if you're counting at home. You got to play in the slot some. You got to be in the box, and that's what makes Winfield so dangerous. Is he is the ultimate chess piece for Todd Bowles. Can line up anywhere in the slot, in the box, 3 deep, single high. He can do it all, and he's just the best defensive back in the league, and he's paid like it. So he was the no-brainer, along with Bates, who is, he went seamlessly from the Bengals to the Falcons, playmaker in Cincy, playmaker in Atlanta. You can put him on any team and he'll make plays.
Yeah, he proved that with the move, and that's not always easy to do, but yeah, seamless is probably the right word for Jesse Bates. And Winfield not just got paid well, the highest paid defensive back in the league. So Winfield's got a lot of money. Hopefully he manages it correctly. I think he will.
Where are you going with this,
he's
Matt?
a smart guy. And my advice to him would be, if he wants to manage his money the best way, he should use Immuni Financial.
At Muni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Muni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Oh, Pewter people, I'm getting so close to retirement. Oh, can't wait. Just 21 more years. That's right. I'm going to give you 50 years of Bucs coverage, then I'm retiring. But what makes me feel pretty secure and safe in that notion is the fact that Immuni Financial is my financial advisor. They got the majority of my financial investments. And I know firsthand that managing your family's wealth, it means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. Legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts. I got 2 kids in college right now. You talk about needing some college savings accounts. Don't wait. Make sure you stockpile that as soon as you can, parents. And then also insurance services. So let Immuni Financial help you. They have a multitude of ways to help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 or visit them on the web at immuni.com. So Matt, let's tally up this little exercise we did here. This is a fun topic. Again,
Yeah.
kudos to you for
Thank
another
you.
great topic here. This is the NFC South player breakdown. So, Matt, I'm not good in math. I'm more of an English guy. I was a good writer, back in school. Math, not my strong subject. But the Buccaneers have 9 players.
Correct.
The Falcons have 6. The Saints have 4, and the Panthers have 3. 9 is a larger number than 6, 4, or 3. That means the Buccaneers have more players on our all NFC South team, our super team, if you will, than the Falcons, Saints, or Panthers. And if that's the case, shouldn't the Bucs be the favorites to win the NFC South with the more talented roster?
I think the real question is, you see the gap between first and second place is 3 players. Is that symbolism for the 3 consecutive years that the Bucs have won the NFC South title?
Yeah.
Who's to say? But yes, I think that is a good reason to show that the most talented team continues to win the division. And to extend that even a little bit further, sure, there can be arguments to be made. I would say really the 2 questionable ones, if someone was going to poke a hole in this, would be, maybe Dean at corner and maybe Yaya Diaby at outside linebacker. But
Or maybe Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
Well,
right?
so that's the flip side
There
of
you
it. Is
go.
you could
Yeah.
say Baker quarterback. The other thing that I think is really impressive with this is it's pretty balanced between offensive and defensive players for the Bucs. I think it's 5 on offense and 4. Let's see. Mike, Chris, Tristan, and Gedeke. So 4 on offense and 5 on the defensive side. So that's well balanced, where the Falcons, if you go back to that offensive graph, it's all Atlanta, and then they have 1 guy on defense. So
Correct.
it's always good to be balanced with offense and defense. And I really don't think, except for some of the guys that we mentioned, I think we got it right. I think people that cover the other teams in the NFC South would also agree with the players that we had on this list.
Yeah. Now, Josh Capo, who is our salary cap, analyst here at Pewter Report, and special teams aficionado.
Yes,
he's going to gripe. He's going to, throw up his hands. I probably haven't looked at my phone, but it probably have a text on there. Where are the specialists? Right. Okay. Well, Chase McLaughlin, I think, is the best kicker. I'm going to give Jake Camarda, who, of course, Josh is a huge fan of. I'm going to give him the top punter. So there's a couple more Buccaneers throwing them on the pot there. And the thing too is Younghoe Koo, good kicker, right? So maybe you could have a toss up there between the 2, but I don't know. Chase McLaughlin was pretty damn good last year.
He was pretty accurate.
Yep. Folks, we're having a shortened week because we have a holiday coming up, 4th of July, Independence Day, America's birthday. That's coming up on Thursday. So our final show of the week is tomorrow. And we got some bold Bucs predictions coming your way. Matt and I will be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock for those predictions for the 2024 season. So we did this exercise in a PR roundtable where we each had 1 prediction, but Matt and I are going to come loaded for bear tomorrow with 5 predictions each. So don't miss tomorrow's show. And then we'll take Thursday off and eat some hot dogs, hamburgers, and blow crap up with fireworks. How about that?
Yeah. America, baby.
America.
But yeah, we want to start some fireworks tomorrow with some bold predictions. So stay tuned for tomorrow's show at 4 p.m. In the meantime, make sure you follow us on all of our social medias on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report. And of course, our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. We got tons of content out, including the podcast several times a week, Pewter Pulses, and other videos that come about, some reaction videos too. And of course, when training camp gets here, we'll have more stuff from practice and press conference as well. So a lot of great stuff there. Please leave a comment below. Maybe if you want to pick the coaching staff that should be coaching this team, good luck with that. That's a whole debate in of itself. But yeah, please leave a comment as well. We would really appreciate it. But I think that's going to do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.